Hello everyone, and welcome to Capitol Watch for Friday, April 20th, our weekly look at legislative news from Jefferson City. And joining us from our governmental relations offices in Jefferson City is Mike Reed, our Associate Executive Director for Advocacy and our Chief Lobbyist. And Mike, we're heading really into the home stretch now of the legislative session, and things are happening, aren't they?
Yes, it's speeding up. There are 4 weeks left in the session. It's time that bills get passed or really get moving. So there's a lot of activity going on in Jefferson City.
One of the issues debated this week, Mike, on the Senate floor was the teacher tenure bill. Tell us about that.
Yes, the teacher tenure bill started out in a lot of ways, but in the end, the bill stated that teachers have to have 10 years experience before they can receive tenure. It was brought up for third reading or final passage in the Senate. It was discussed, and several senators pulled their support and stated that they would vote against it, such that the sponsor of the bill, Senator Cunningham, laid the bill over. I think that bill has a lot of trouble. I'm not sure. In fact, I believe she does not have the votes to pass it. So I think that bill may have died.
Another bill, Mike, we expected to come up on the Senate floor this week, another bill by Senator Cunningham, an omnibus education bill, but that did not materialize, did it?
No, that did not materialize. There was a lot of speculation that that bill would be brought up on Thursday, that Senator Cunningham would have a Senate substitute for that bill. A lot of people discussed what is probably in that substitute, but perhaps there was not enough time to draft the substitute, or there was not enough support for it. I don't know what happened. I just know that that bill did not come up. I do anticipate that it will come up sometime in the future for at least discussion, because I believe Senator Cunningham has a lot of areas that she wishes to discuss, and that some other senators also want to put some of these questions out on the table.
A bill, Mike, that did pass the Senate this week, it's a subject that's had a lot of discussion in the session this year, is a bill dealing with unaccredited school districts. What's in that bill?
Yes, that bill passed the Senate and now goes to the House. What it does is it gives the state school board the power to go into an unaccredited district immediately. Presently, the law says that you have to wait 2 years while the district is unaccredited before the state school board can come in and take action. This bill says the board will come in, work with the local authorities and the local school board to determine what's best for the district, whether that means restructuring the board in some ways, having a special SAB board established, working with people in the community to see what's best for the community and to get the unaccredited district back to accreditation.
Mm-hmm. Another bill that passed the Senate this week, Mike, dealt with the expansion of charter schools, another issue that's had a lot of discussion this session, and now that's cleared the Senate, hasn't it?
That has cleared the Senate and is now going to the House. This bill says that charter schools may be expanded in Missouri. Presently, charter schools can only be in the St. Louis and Kansas City school districts. This bill allows charter schools in any unaccredited district, and in provisionally accredited district, the charter schools must be established only by the local school board or a charter school sponsor accredited by the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, and that is only after the district has been provisionally accredited for 3 years. All other districts, accredited districts, the charter schools can only be sponsored by the local school board. So that is one of our resolutions, is that expansion of charter schools in Missouri can only be chartered by the local school board, and that is a resolution that we have. It's part of that bill.
And that bill, Mike, also contains some increased accountability provisions for charter schools, which is something else we support, isn't it?
Yes, and that's the major provision that we supported this piece of legislation, is that there's much more accountability for charter schools and charter school sponsors. Presently, charter schools take public money, and there is a lot of weak accountability to that. And if they're going to become players in the public school arena, then they must meet the same requirements as public schools.
Another bill, Mike, that we've had some concerns about on the House side, it's a special education bill that essentially contains a voucher provision. Where does that stand now?
Well, it still stands on the calendar. That's Price's law, and it is vouchers for students, tuition tax credits for students with autism and other disabilities to attend private schools. It sits on the calendar. We thought it would be debated and at least a trial vote taken on it. That has not happened, and it's getting late. However, I still think that there may be some debate on that in the next week or so.
Mm-hmm. Mike, earlier this week, several of the education groups, including MSBA, had a meeting on the topic of tax credits. And that's really quite an issue facing the state of Missouri, isn't it, as far as these tax credits and the loss of state revenue that results from them?
They really have. That's tax credits have been an issue that's been going around for some time. MSBA staff were on several members of the MSBA staff were on a group looking at tax credits last year to discuss how these tax credits affect the bottom line of state revenue. Tax credits are, in fact, just that, credits taken against state tax money, and they come right off the top of the state budget. So right now there's outstanding about $700 million in tax credits this year, $650 to $700 million. That comes right off the top of the budget. Tax credits are needed in some places to make sure that we jumpstart the economy, but we have to make sure that we're not getting taken in the same time. We have to make sure that tax credits, in fact, are financially stable and do not hurt kids. So it's something we need to look at. We're going to be pushing examination of tax credits for the rest of this year and early next year to see exactly that tax credits do what they're supposed to do and just not be giveaways.
Mike, as we look ahead to the coming week, I guess one of the big issues will be the discussion of the state budget on the Senate floor.
It is. That is a big issue. The budget bills were read in on Wednesday. It's anticipated that the budget should be debated starting Monday, maybe Tuesday, but probably Monday. A lot of debate is going to go on in the Senate concerning that. And the Senate budget and the House budget are $60 to $70 million apart. So if it would pass just as it is, there's going to have to be some give and take at conference. There's only 3 weeks left to pass the budget. The budget has to be passed the Friday before the end of session. So there is plenty of time, but time is still getting away. And so if the Senate takes a week, all next week to pass the budget, then there's just 2 weeks to work on conference. Should be a very interesting time, and we will keep you informed of how the budget is going and how it affects public education in Missouri.
And of course, Mike, the budget that came over from the House did include the $5 million increase in the foundation formula. Is that at risk at all on the Senate side, do you think?
Well, that's, I would certainly hope not. That actually was increased in the Senate to $5 million and $1, or well, in the House, and the Senate took that $5 million and $1. So I don't think they both have passed. The House passed that. The Senate Budget Committee passed it. I certainly hope it isn't at risk. However, I think everything is at risk until such time as the budget is passed through the Senate, and then we go to conference. So there are still a lot of questions about people looking for more places to reduce the budget in Missouri.
All right, Mike Reed, as always, thanks a lot for joining us. We appreciate your insights into the goings-on in Jefferson City. And of course, as Mike mentioned, 4 weeks left in the legislative session, and we'll be keeping you up to date on the actions of the legislature during the remaining weeks of the session through our Legislative Voice newsletter that you receive every Friday, our daily blog on our website, and of course on this program. Thanks for joining us, and we hope you can join us again next week for another edition of MSBA's Capitol Watch.